Hey, it's James, Fathers Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. Here's the deal when you go to court. You have to know things like Troxel versus Granville, the statutes in your state, the evidence rules, a judge's duty to make a finding of fact before they can interfere with your constitutional right or your rights to your kid. I just talked to a dad today. He went in there and he got 90% of his argument down, but what he should have pinned the judge down on, the judge said, well, you haven't seen your child in a long time. I don't know what's going to happen. Now that's utter bullcrap because first of all, the judge has to make a finding of fact as to what the danger the father is. They can't make a finding of fact, the finding of I don't know or just in case. Think about how stupid this is. And you need to pay close attention because 90% of you half-ass this stuff because you don't give a shit about your kids enough to study this stuff and get it down. You think, oh, I heard one of James's little sermons on a video, so I'm going to go into court. I'm ready to go. No, you have to know this stuff. You can't go to a final exam in college in a class reading the Cliff Notes one time from a book. You got to study the book or the subject matter or whatever. You have to absorb it and get it in you so you can spit it out like you know and understand it. You have to be able to turn around and teach it to somebody else. You can't just memorize some stuff in your head and not understand the principles. If you actually give a shit about your kids, you need to do this. Now, this guy is working hard, but he just didn't finish a job. And I gave him an example, like if you're a fighter and you're in the ring and somebody counterpunches you, and you say, oh, I didn't see that coming, and you excuse it because I didn't know that in my training or I didn't get it. You need to train better. You need to train for everything. Or if your trainer told you to get ready for that stuff and you didn't put in a little extra work to get ready for it, then that's your fault. But if the United States Supreme Court says you have a constitutional right to the care and custody of your kids, and they assume that you act in the best interest of the child, this judge said, well, I don't know what's going to happen. Yes, you do, because Troxel versus Granville tells you have to assume I act in the best interest of the child. Now what? What is the specific danger? You need to specifically make a finding. But see, that's you demanding that from the judge. And too many of you are a bunch of pussy-ass bitch cowards and won't say that to a judge and tell the judge what their job is. Now, you don't have to say it in the tone I do. You can be firm. Your Honor, you have to make a finding of fact. You can't draw a conclusion based off of, I don't know what's going to happen. We don't know whether the mother's going to date a pedophile next month. We don't know whether the mother's going to drive drunk and kill the kid. So are you going to take the kid away because you don't know this hypothetical? You need to go off what you do know. Troxel versus Granville. The state says that, and that's a presumptuous 50-50 state, that's the best interest of the child. All the science says the child needs a father in the home full time. So we know all these factors point toward the child needs a dad now. And you're sitting there saying reunification therapy, classes, all this other stuff to kick it down the road. Why? Because you're finding a fact is a hypothetical that I don't know what's going to happen. That's an utter lie because you do know what's going to happen. I'm going to act in the best interest of the child. Just like you do know, you have to apply that to the mother. But the mother has shown she wants to alienate and undermine the child and deprive the child of a father. So we know the mother is the one who will abuse the child. See, if you know the stuff I talk about and you study it and absorb it, then you'll be able to spit it out to the court. If you just gloss over it and listen to it once and you don't absorb it with the intent, like I'm going to use this and just think about your free speech right. Think about this. Here's an example. You're out protesting or you're striking because you got a bunch of people striking and the cops disperse you. Or you're protesting the government. This is a government issue. The Constitution is redressing grievances to the government. So you redress a grievance to the government and you're protesting on Congress steps or on the sidewalk of the governor's office or whatever, and the cops say you have to leave. You would say, no, I have a free speech right out here. And they say, no, you don't. See, you know so hardcore, it's so ingrained of you that you have a free speech right because it's a really simple issue and everybody knows it, that you have the confidence to tell a cop to buzz off. But see, you go to family court and you don't study the stuff I tell you to study. People call me months and months later after going to 4 or 5 hearings like a bunch of dumbasses and lazy bitches that they didn't care enough to be responsible and do their due diligence to get ready to fight for their kid, that they just, let me just skip through the hearing and just do this and just get by. All this half-assed bullshit. But then people want to talk to me all day long about, oh, the system's like this and the judges are this, and like that. I want to talk to you about what to do in court. I want you to go do it. I don't want to waste time on anything else. That's why you guys don't like me, because you have to get off your ass and do something if you're gonna deal with me. I'm all about doing stuff. You want to talk shit about the court and whine, cry, piss them on like a little sissy bitch. Go to a Father's Rights Movement meeting. But if a cop comes up to you and say, we could come into your home and search your home, you're like, no, you can't, not without a warrant. They say, well, why don't you just let us in? Why don't you get a warrant? You know that to be true so well that you will stand up for that and even defy a cop, and you know you're not going to shoot the cop or anything, but you will adamantly argue with the cop because you're so confident and you know your rights and you know who you are and you can stand on that. When you go to family court, you don't know jack shit because you didn't study anything I told you to study. Or you didn't care enough to go look into it. See, this stuff hurts you. How come I care more about you fighting and fighting the system than you do? And this is the answer to upend and change the system for millions of dads to go in there and unbrainwash the judges saying you have to follow Troxas versus Granville. If you talk to a judge the same way you would talk to a police officer saying you can't be out here protesting. I mean, we saw... like during 2020, all the protests that went on, people were like defiant and violent. I got a right to be out here. I have a right to, even people on the news and politicians are saying, protests aren't pretty. They will get violent. Now, they cross the line with that, but everybody knows their free speech right. How come you don't know your parental rights like that? You're about to go in and fight for your life with your kids. How come you don't give a shit enough to put some energy into studying this stuff? It's 100% your fault. If you go in there and you don't attack a judge. Now, you might make a mistake here and there, but if you go in there and you don't know what to say to a judge, when a judge says, well, I don't know what's going to happen if I let you see the kid. You haven't seen the kid in a while. You're making a presumption that I'm a danger to the kid. Make a finding as to what that is. I demand you to make a finding. And you have a right to demand findings. But a bunch of you bitch-ass cowards won't even do it. And then you'll say, well, James is an asshole. And I'm telling you the answer, and I'm just not saying it in the tone that you want to. And you're going to go in with your loser strategy and keep losing. You want to talk about everything else except what to do. If you're fat and 200 pounds overweight, you want to talk about everything else. I love cake. I love cheesecake. I love pie. I love ice cream. I don't want to have to give it up. And you're talking about how you can lose weight. And you're like talking about all the things that you wish you could still do and still lose weight. And it's not going to work. You have to cut out the food and move more and eat less. And if you know that, then, and you really want to do it, then you'll go do it. If you know what your rights are, then you'll study them and prepare for court like you should. You have to absorb this stuff that I'm sure, and half the stuff I'm telling you is free. So you have zero excuses for being a bitch coward and not going in and fighting and confronting the judge. When I write motions, I'll write a motion and say, here's a motion for reconsideration of judge's reversible error, which means the Court of Appeals is going to reverse it. So I'm saying something insulting to them. And reversible error, number 1, disregard for Troxel versus Granville. Number 2, disregard for the law. Number 3, disregard for the child's safety and welfare. Number 4, disregard for the science. Boom, right off the top. I'm saying it in the motion. I'm attacking the judge's misconduct. But you say, oh, let's just dance around the issue and not confront the judge and hope that the judge will use mental telepathy and feel my pain and all of a sudden reward. You want to dance around the actual answer. You want to do everything else except the answer. Think about this example. If you're accused of murder and you go to court and the judge says, well, the jury found you innocent and there's no evidence that you committed murder, but I don't know if you're going to go out and commit murder, so I'm going to put you in jail for life. That sounds really stupid, doesn't it? So when a judge says, well, you haven't seen your kids in a while, I don't know how you will act or how it will go. So I'm going to restrict you and imprison you away from your kids as if you're a danger to the kids. But I don't know what that is. A judge cannot do something if they don't make a finding of fact. And I have videos on this stuff. And you guys don't listen to what I'm saying. And you don't want to study it. And you don't want to get an appointment so we can point to where you're missing out on so you can get better and learn how to do this. This is all your fault. That's why I have no compassion for all the bitches in the comments who say, oh, it's this and that, it's everybody else. You could go to court and fight the right way. You could have done it from the beginning if you would have found me, or you would have groomed some balls and you would have followed your conscience. And then after that, you could have got a hold of me. Or after you watch my videos for 5, 6, 7 months, but you wait until 1 week before trial, well, I'm really screwed now. Now I'll call James. You didn't have the balls before. Go in there with the balls to call it what it is and learn and absorb the stuff so you can spit it out.